Hello everyone, my name is TetW, and I've made this video as a place for beginners interested in picking up Crash Bandicoot speedrunning to start and hear some important tips before starting their full game runs. I've been speedrunning Crash Bandicoot 1 as my main speed game for a few years now, and I've been able to witness and contribute to the game's changing strats, skips, and meta. Thanks to people such as myself, Whitepaws, Gojiro, Rex, Kane, Whip, ZebBM, and more, Crash 1 has become faster and faster with lots of different strats to choose from in many segments. Usually the place where a runner first goes to learn how to run the game is by looking at the world record run and copying their strats. This isn't a bad idea, however the world records for both categories contain strats that may only be faster by combining certain cycle skips together and or will not be consistently possible for a new runner to pull off. And while their strats are fast, which is good, it is generally wiser to start off with some easier strats to do in your runs while trying out the harder strats in practice, and then implementing them in your run as your skill improves. An example of this is death abusing in any percent. Death abusing in any percent, assuming you're reusing the NTSCU or PAL versions, makes the cutscene at the end of levels that tells you how many boxes you missed not load. Additionally, dying resets cycles that the death abuses in the world record are done on checkpoints that reset cycles to fast positions. The problem here for new runners is that they most likely will not have fast enough movement or knowledge to be able to catch these cycles, which means that no time is saved. As such, I recommend death abusing in these spots shown on screen, but adding harder ones you see in the world record or other strat videos as you improve. Another example of this is in the 100% category, where 4 skips are done so that 4 levels can be beaten with all the boxes without a second visit. The first 2 skips are Jungle Rollers and Great Gate Skip, which can definitely be learned by new runners from the very start if they choose, and both skips have their own tutorial videos. The other 2 skips are Upstream and Cortex Power Skip, which are harder and require more time to learn. It is advised that runners only learn Upstream if they already have a 106 or better. Cortex Power Skip used to be quite an inconsistent skip, but things have developed that have made it 100% execution based. It is currently believed that a new runner could now pick up this skip from the start, but if they are struggling with other areas of the game, those areas should definitely be improved first. The Cortex Power Skip also has its own tutorial video. A good way to learn stuff about the game is through watching marathon runs because they have live commentary informing viewers about stuff about the run. For any percent, I recommend watching the SGDQ 2017 run by Whitepaws, and for 100%, I recommend watching My No Reset Speedrun's 2018 run. Both of these will be linked below. As for watching runs on the leaderboard, the top 2 runs in 90% and the top 4 runs in 100% are definitely worth checking out for different strats and setups for things. Finally, I have a work in progress guide for the 100% category, which will be linked in the description. It also contains general useful information about the game, so it's worth checking out even if you're just interested in any percent. I'm going to discuss the different categories of the game and where you should start. Crash 1's category lineup is pretty simple compared to some other speed games, with just having any percent and 100% categories. Any percent is just beating the game as fast as possible from start to finish. In other words, get from start on the title screen to landing the last hit on Cortex. An important segment in this run is the Lost City, which has the green gem that allows you to skip castle machinery almost entirely. At top and intermediate level, global cycles are carried through levels a lot in this run. The other category, 100%, involves completing the game to 100% by collecting all 26 gems and 2 keys, and then triggering the secret ending in the Great Hall. The game is played up into the lab, and then the backtracking part of the run begins, which involves cleaning up new levels available from keys, and also cleaning up previously visited levels with now acquired color gems that allow access to hidden boxes. Due to the nature of how gems are collected in this game, with having to complete the level without dying past a checkpoint and all, you might assume I would recommend trying any percent first, as it has significantly less punishing deaths, but I firmly believe that a runner can do well picking up either category first. Naturally, however, a runner that has played the game a lot casually will have less trouble starting with the 100% category. And also, one category will teach you some things that you may not learn in the other. Next, Crash 1 was officially released for 3 different regions: NTSCU, PAL, and NTSCJ. NTSCU, often referred to as the American version, is the fastest region for any percent due to the fact that death abusing skips the cutscene at the end of levels telling you how many boxes you missed, while NTSCJ cannot, which also allows for strategically resetting cycles to fast positions. NTSCJ, often referred to as the Japanese version, is the fastest region for 100% because the red gem is placed before the level Road to Nowhere, which requires the red gem to get all the boxes, instead of after it, which means that one whole less visit is needed compared to the other 2 regions. Now, some people get turned off running 100% because they do not have access to the NTSCJ version, but the truth is that NTSCJ probably saves less than a minute over NTSCU, and a lot of the same strats can be used by NTSCJ runners in NTSCU. The reason it saves a lot less than you'd think a whole revisit with skip would save is because that time save is decreased throughout the run by having worse cycles due to the fact you are resetting them less, since you don't have to use it to skip the box cutscenes on first passes to levels. PAL is the worst version and is also very different from the other 2 versions due to different movement speeds and jump heights. Cortex power skip is a bit different, and more. If you are stuck with the PAL version, it is advised that you switch to Emulator. Crash 1 was first released on the PS1, but is also officially playable on PS2, PS3, PSP, and PSDV, although PSDV is PAL only, so it won't be talked about in detail here. It is playable through Emulator as well. PS2 is the fastest version due to the feature known as Fast Disk Speed, which makes the PS1 disc spin at a PS2 speed, which saves about 1 minute 40 seconds in any percent and about 2 minutes in 100%. The only other platform that has this feature is PSP, but for some reason it makes the load slower. PS1 is laggy, and PS3 is laggy and also has poor emulation. You can still run the game just fine on all these platforms though. The other platform is Emulator, which has way less lag than consoles but no fast disk speed option, so it is the second fastest way to play if you don't have a PS2. If you are going to use Emulator, please check the rules section on the leaderboards and see the forum post detailing the emulators that you are allowed to use in your run so your run won't get rejected for using a banned emulator such as PSX Fin or PCSX. The emulator I used before switching to PSD was EPSXE 2.0.0, which I would still recommend today. Again, don't worry too much if you're stuck with a slower version than PS2, as you can still get very respectable times with that. The main movement technique in this game is zigzagging. While jumping in the air, if you alternate up left and up right while moving forward, or down left and down right while moving downward as another example, you get a boost of speed that you can use as the main form of movement tech and use it to clear jumps that would otherwise not be possible. Make sure you never do it on the ground though, as it only works in the air. This technique takes a lot of time to get good at, so don't be discouraged if your zigzag feels bad at first. Everyone starts somewhere. You will most likely need to only do it a little bit at first, or else your hands will hurt a lot. As you play the game more over time, your hands will get used to it. This is another reason why it is advised that you go for easier cycles and death beat spots when starting any percent, as your zigzag may not be fast enough to catch the same cycles as the world record. There are a few different ways to zigzag. You can do it with your thumb or with your wrist, for example, and some people can zigzag better on certain controllers, for example the analogless PS1 controller or the DualShock 2 controller. These things are all preference though, so experiment. Note that when you have invincibility, you should walk on the ground as much as possible, as the zigzag isn't really practical for that. Another important movement technique is called the submarine jump. If you fall from a ledge while spinning, you have 10 frames after the spin animation finishes to do a jump in the air. Beware though that if you jump while the spin animation is playing, you will not be able to get a jump. This can allow for clearing big gaps and spinning boxes near ledges without fear. I recommend learning this technique early on because it is just so useful. Spinning, combined with jumping and zigzagging, is the general fastest way to move in the game, but beware of the spin timer, which is where Crash won't spin after spinning too much, and 1 spin out of 6 available spins recharges every 2 seconds. Spinning lasts 24 frames on the ground and 14 frames in the air, but if a landing is made and you jump immediately, 4 frames are continued. You may see top runners do this movement a lot. Note that you should avoid spin jumping down most slopes, and on platforms that fall after landing on them, such as lily pads and the falling platforms in Generator Room and Ruins levels, because they will almost always eat your input. And also note that spinning in a jump can add a bit of height to your jump. Finally, it's worth noting that when you fall off a ledge, you still have 10 frames to jump, and this is known as a ledge jump. It's useful in a few spots. Cycles are a very important part of Crash Bandicoot 1's speedrunning. If you wish to pursue running this game at a high or intermediate level, knowing all your cycles and what strats you can do to skip them will set you apart from the other runners. Here I will go over the different types of cycles that can be found in the game. Global cycles are moving as long as the game is not paused or on a loading screen. These cycles, along with all the other cycles listed here, still reset when you die. For example, the spikes in Native Fortress are still moving while you're in Jungle Rollers. Spawn cycles start moving when you get close to it. As a result, these cycles are always consistent, but they are sometimes referred to as a proximity cycle. Examples include the Rollers in Jungle Rollers and Rolling Stones, Hogs in Bridge levels, and Flames in Ruins levels. A level cycle is a rare type of cycle in the PS1 Crash Bandicoot trilogy. It is a cycle that begins moving when you first spawn in the level. An example includes the Castle Machinery Ending Rising cycle. Thank you all for watching. Again, this video was just an attempt to make a solid introduction to Crash 1 speedrunning and teach potential new runners important stuff before starting their full game runs, but regardless, I hope you got something positive from it. If you have any questions about Crash 1 speedrunning, feel free to leave a comment. I really love helping new runners and seeing interest in the game. Recently, I also created a new Discord server for just Crash Bandicoot 1 speedrunning, so feel free to use the invite link in the description and ask questions there as well. Merry Christmas, and best of luck if you decide to pick up this game.